3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. After welcoming 13,000 participants that have joined us from all over the world, we are truly happy to welcome you back on board to our third episode of the Blockchain Spotlight series, The Road to NFTs. With our moderator of honor of the day, Mr. Jesus Pena Garcia, blockchain and cryptocurrencies leader at Deloitte. Right after the panel discussion, you'll have 3 workshops to choose from. First one, understanding community value in NFTs and why that matters with George Wong. Second, the legal aspects to NFTs and the challenges to overcome with CMS Luxembourg. Third, the digital twin, what if, and the public sector on NFTs with Mr. Thomas Kallstenius, CEO of The List, and none other than Younis Hijazi, founder at Uscale. A little bit about our fantastic speaker's background. Connecting from Berlin, we have Mr. Surya Elango, Director of Growth at Venly, a blockchain technology provider offering users blockchain projects, digital wallets to store assets with a native solution that also works on mobile devices. Venly also recently launched the Venly Market as the first ever peer-to-peer and blockchain agnostic NFT marketplace. Connecting from Malaysia, we have Mr. George Wong, founder and CEO of Reactive Lab, who's leveraging on blockchain, play-to-earn, and NFT digital assets. Reactive Labs focuses on the blockchain advisory services and the advocacy and adoption of NFTs, NFT digital assets. George is welcoming you to join his workshop on the Malaysian NFT experience right after the panel discussion. Tuning in from the Luxembourg office, Mr. Aurelien Hollard, who's leading the investment funds practice at CMS Luxembourg. Aurelien is specialized in the setup of alternative investment funds and has significant experience in structuring funds for private equity, venture capital, private debt, real estate, and infrastructure. Among others, Mr. Aurelien Hollard also leads the sustainable and digital campaigns within CMS and is therefore deeply involved in ESG and fund tokenization, including working on several NFT projects at the moment. Together with Miss Aurelia, Viemont, Senior Counsel at CMS, they will be giving an insights workshop on the NFTs legal aspects after the panel discussion. Connecting from Moscow, Mr. Vsevolod, Michalevsky, CEO of OnGrid Solutions, a blockchain and decentralized development platform offering cloud computing services, consulting, audit, as well as distributed ledger technologies and training. Vsevolod is an expert researcher on CBDC and is acting as an advisor and guest speaker at the Federal Reserve Bank roundtables on the future of digital finance. Connecting from Barcelona, we have none other than Mr. Manuel Machado, who has 18 plus years of experience in international experience in technology-based solutions, currently working with technologies such as blockchain, IoT, and AI, on top of leading the business domain within the worldwide international expert community. He is the global head of blockchain solutions at Worldline and a member of EU Blockchain Observatory and Forum, Alastra Consortium, and Atos Expert Network. On the moderator side, we have none other than Mr. Jesus Pena Garcia, blockchain and cryptocurrencies leader at Deloitte. Jesus has a colorful background as an award-winning serial entrepreneur in the blockchain space, venturing in Luxembourg since 2015. He created BitValley, a security fintech startup offering blockchain as a service in B2B2C business model. Was COO at Appla. I guess the founders are there too. Hello, Dennis. A peer-to-peer blockchain network that uses the delegated proof at stake method as its consensus algorithm. Prior to start, Jesus was director at the Grant Thornton Technology Hub and used to work at the National Center for Intelligence Office as a cyber officer and agent. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesus, the screen is yours.
Anthony, I see that this is not the first time that you did this kind of pitch. Really great. So, hello everyone. As Anthony said, my name is Jesus, and I'm very excited and happy to moderate this incredible panel with incredible guests and with so many attendees. So, thank you for everyone to having the time for joining this event, and also because we are going to speak about so much interesting things around NFT assets tokenization, because for me it's the big opportunity that the blockchain and cryptocurrencies we have at the moment. So with no more delay, let's start with the panel. I would like just to say that for Antonio, for Manuel, sorry, we have a question for you. So you were in the space, you were looking into the blockchain space from the beginning. So what were your Eureka moment over the last 10 years from the very early blockchain platform impacting the financial services industry, and also that recently impact to you?
Mhm. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, for me, I've been looking at especially Bitcoin and then Ethereum networks and smart contract-based networks since maybe 2014, 15, something like that. I have to recognize I couldn't understand much of what it was going on. For me, the first Eureka moment, it was I went to a conference in Spain organized by a friend of mine, who is a leading head in these topics. And then I started to understand what we were talking about, like Bitcoin as a basis for a world monetary system, sensor proof, which was wow, impressive. If we can manage to get there, that would be great.
Yeah.
And then all what you can do with smart contract-based blockchains, like all the decentralized finance services that you can build on top of that. So that was my first Eureka moment. I started understanding something of what I was looking at. Then I started playing myself, mainly with the CeFi and DeFi services, like earning some yield on my assets, or using assets as collateral to get some financing for myself, like a very small size testing. It was really interesting, and then going to decentralized portals and try to get to use some different financial services, which was a little bit complicated because usability still was not very good. And then the last thing I think was the NFT world. It's like I started. I learned about CryptoKitties like everybody. At the beginning, I thought it was a joke. It was kind of somehow at the beginning, and I didn't pay much attention to it. But it was when it started to move into other sectors, like collaterals and especially gaming, where I said, okay, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. It's a natural transition from digital worlds. And then that I think that was my last realization moment, Eureka moment in this sector.
Yeah, I think that the CryptoKitty was for everyone like the first collectibles, and everybody acquired one of them. So thank you, Manuel, for your answer. What is about you, Seba? What do you need to say?
Thank you, Jesus, for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here with you. And talking about Eurekas, we are more like technicians. And the first Eureka for me should have happened when Ethereum concept was developed and aired on 30th of July 2015. But I work in field a bit less time. So I started in late 2016. And those time, Ethereum was still in its infancy. And but first smart contracts emerged on the market, and we saw the first adoption in a technical way. In a business way, there were just some not so quite good ICOs, mostly as a projects, but still some of the projects, maybe 10% of them, were really good and have a business goal behind them, have really trusted team behind them. And afterwards, we all faced the crypto winter from 2017 to 2019 or even 20. We saw that all the crypto field was frozen because cryptocurrency dropped suddenly in its prices, and there were not too much room for innovations. But then the second real Eureka for me, happened when we all saw the merge of Uniswap protocol. In summer of 2020, we saw really tremendous increasing of volumes traded through the Uniswap protocol. We saw the first adoption of smart contracts that granted users the real possibility, the real opportunities of decentralization. We saw the billions in volumes, and all the big players from the fintech, from the banking, also looked at it, and so what's going on? What's going on there? And the field is still emerging. And afterwards, talking back to 2017, there were two projects regarding the NFTs. It was a Cryptokitties project, and the CryptoPunks, the famous NFT collection, was minted those days as well. But the time nobody considered these projects as something serious. So, but now the things have changed, and talking about the emerging of DeFi. So the kickoff for DeFi was the Uniswap emerge and this growth of volumes. And later on, we will see the concept of liquidity mining from SushiSwap. We will see the emerge of DeFi lending and borrowing protocols like Maker, like Compound, like Aave. We will see emerging of insurance protocols like Armor and order-based DEXs like DYDX and etc. etc. So we see now evolving of all these techniques to nowadays for 2 years. These protocols evolved a lot, and I can't predict what we will see in 2 years. So that was like two main Eurekas happened to me when I was working in DeFi and NFT field.
Yeah, it's great. And you mentioned already CryptoPunk and CryptoKitties, and the next question is around this, because what brought the attention for you in the NFT space in particular, from the technical point of view, maybe?
Yes. Honestly, we as outsourcing research and developing company were always more like reactive than proactive to the market demands. So one day we just saw that a lot of inquiries from our customers have transformed from complex DeFi projects development like custom AMMs and staking and liquidity mining protocols to suddenly NFTs. So at first, the inquiries were to develop the simple NFT collection and showcases. But as of now, we are developing complex collections and games with very interesting gamify, play, and earn mechanics inside. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And for you, Manuel?
And also, yes.
Yeah. So now go ahead, please.
Yeah, also we are finishing our inner research considering the NFT market demands in the future. So we are ready to predict something already.
Yeah, that is amazing. Yeah, thank you, Seba. Manuel, for you, what brought the attention in the NFT space?
Okay, I was monitoring the space for a while, depending on the different use cases that it was applied to, like collectibles and art and all that. But the art is, I'm not big into art. I don't understand that art sufficiently. So I was not motivated by that. But it was when I started looking at gaming-based use cases, like a play-to-earn arena, where I saw that people were really making a living out of that. To me, it was like a shock. Like it's amazing. It's like the world. It's a turnaround, and people are really taking advantage of big platforms and ensuring the rewards and revenues, and it's amazing. It's a great use case. It's a natural evolution, as I said, as I mentioned before. So that's why I really started paying attention to the NFT world.
Yeah, and maybe you can illustrate one particular use case that made you maybe to look a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's Axie Infinity is one of the big success of play-to-earn games, and but Axie Infinity is crazy enough just to make you think about the whole ecosystem. But when you think about DeFi applied to gaming, like companies like YGG. Like GTO games, which are providing funds to players so that they can access those play-to-earn games because assets are increasing prices, so there's an entry barrier. So they are supporting players so that they can access those games and then share the rewards with the DAO that is providing the assets and the investors who are participating into the DAO. So it's a great use case. You have, in my case, DAOs that is a organization that I really love, and I'm analyzing that I'm trying to push forward, because it's really, really interesting how to organize in a DAO structure for blockchain and decentralized services. You have gaming, you have decentralization, and you have the social impact also in societies. Like you are helping people improve their revenue streams and financial inclusion, their financial knowledge. So it's so many things that you are touching at the same time. So for me, it's an amazing use case, and something that is gonna impact the way we do business in the near future, I think.
Yeah, it will impact the community by itself.
Sure,
so.
absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And Seba, and for you can also let us know about the use case that you have in mind, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I agree with Manuel a lot. So we see now there are some concepts of NFT projects that are developing right now that will allow users to get yields from owning their NFTs, even if these NFTs are not developed according to GameFi standards. Simple NFTs like pictures, like music NFTs, like video NFTs, etc., with no gamified mechanics inside. So as of now, most of these solutions are DAO based, and that's most exciting fact for me too, because we see two completely different ideas adopting NFTs and DAOs. NFTs are bridging the understanding of crypto to simple users who are not from the crypto field, and the DAOs are more for business sites, and the companies, the projects could establish already with some in some jurisdictions, in some legal frameworks, a DAO, a company as a DAO. So that's really exciting for me, and I see the future very bright for these two concepts.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the bridge between business and crypto should be the DAO.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. It's quite interesting. Yeah, so let's move with to know more of our panelists. So, George, you are living in Malaysia. So, what can tell you us from the NFT space in your region, in your place, and how your fascination has grown over the time in this space?
Thank you. So I've been in the space since 2017, and I've done an ICO in Malaysia, China, and India, probably the three most regulated places in the world when it comes to ICOs and IUs right now. So you can understand that the space is highly regulated, and we are predominantly participants as investors. Although, so I wouldn't say that Malaysia is a hotbed for new projects to be launched out of, simply because of that regulatory restrictions. Although we are kind of the forefront in terms of some of the regulatory aspects, like IO operator licenses that will be coming out probably by next year. It's just that it's heavily regulated, so the whole aspect of building projects has been proven to be tricky. So the majority of the makeup is made up of investors. Now, my experience with NFTs kind of highlighted this as well. I started out with NFTs with the sandbox, as you can see above me, right? And because the managing director of China needed some assistance from me to help grow the sandbox, which is a huge upcoming play-to-earn game that's launching very, very soon. And I started there by growing the community in Malaysia. And I was fascinated by how big the whole idea of creators coming into the space. And it was a different way for the interested in the space, creators and design, etc., to participate in the blockchain environment without environment. So I went deep dive. I went into building my own X Infinity Guild. I've gone into Aave Gochi, and I went into all the discords for all these PFP avatar projects, and I even started modding in at least 4 different Discord communities just to understand how it works. Because the big challenge with a lot of people is the value of NFTs, right? And where I feel that the value is derived from comes from the community, which I would probably be talking about in my workshop later. And it's an area that a lot of people in the financial space does not look into, I feel, because it's so nitty-gritty right now. It's so early stage, and it's being driven by this. But this is where you see the aspect of the DAO, right? Decentralized autonomous organizations come together. And that what makes it really exciting, even for us, it allows us in Asia to participate with the rest of the world through a DAO on a platform which is borderless, right? And all of this happens in Discords and Telegram, and of course, Twitter as well, which has a resurgence because of NFTs. So currently, I'm so full on into this because I see the potential, and we've even started investing into large XC guilds, launching our own NFT projects, and seeing how this development of a DAO-based business, so to speak, would grow. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's an impressive answer, and it's right. It's what is happening in Discord and what is happening in Telegram regards NFT and cryptocurrency is just amazing. So let's go to meet another of our panelists. So Surya, as a director of growth at Venly in Berlin, what made you take the challenge, and how has your interest grown for NFT?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me. My journey into crypto is similar to that of many others. I ventured into crypto and NFTs first as a part-time investor doing swing trades mostly. So once I started researching about each of the projects more and more to understand it better and also to make a rational investment decision, I quickly grasped the potential of the space in general and also the implications of blockchain on many different industries. So I found this to be really fascinating, and I wanted to be on the builder side rather than on the consumer side. Hence, I decided to make the switch from the regular tech startup scene to crypto, and this is how I came to be at Venly. So during this time, my interest for NFTs has grown from just seeing NFTs as an investment vehicle to seeing NFTs for their utility. At Venly, we are creating an all-in-one software platform to help companies benefit from blockchain technology with our wallets, NFT tools, and markets. So with Venly Wallet, we offer multi-blockchain wallet services for blockchain projects. We provide widget, white label, and custody wallet services with features like social login to make it really simple for end users, while also being totally secure. We have supported projects, big names like Atari, Ubisoft, and even Sandbox, to even niche players and focusing on very niche games. We have also built a suite of NFT tools and APIs to help projects build and scale fast, right from plugins, NFT minter, analytics, and sending NFTs to email. And we also have our own NFT market, which is the very first blockchain agnostic NFT marketplace, just as Anthony quoted in the introduction. So we help projects to get featured in front of over 500,000 users in our ecosystem. And projects can also build their own NFT marketplace with our APIs. So much recently, we co-created an NFT app with Shopify, the e-commerce tech provider. So using this app, Shopify merchants can now create, mint, and sell NFTs from their own e-commerce store without any deep technical understanding of blockchain, or even without changing their existing payment flow. So we are doing this basically to accelerate the mainstream adoption of blockchain and NFTs, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, thank you, Surya. Very interesting. So now I have more open questions. So it's like for the bankers and asset managers and investors listening this event. So which NFT projects should they pay the most attention? And also based on your regional experience. So what are the most recent use cases that you would like to share with us?
Sure. So this is an interesting question. I wouldn't name any particular NFT projects per se, as it won't do justice to others building on the space. But so far, the majority of the well-known NFT projects we have seen are based on the Ethereum blockchain, but this is changing rapidly as we speak. Now there are solid projects booming on other blockchains such as Solana, Avalanche, Polygon Matic, and Binance Smart Chain, which are also interesting from an investment perspective. And we will see this trend continue to grow in the coming days and months. So my suggestion would be to just be open to this up and coming NFT projects building on other blockchain ecosystems as well, especially the ones with good team, clear roadmap, a strong value proposition, and a good community aspect to it. These would really outshine others in the long term. So coming to the next half of the question, so with respect to the use cases and applications of NFTs, right now the majority of the use cases we see are in digital art, collectibles, and in the entertainment space. The NFT space is still in its infancy, but I believe we'll definitely see more and more innovative use cases of NFTs in the near future. So we have seen this happen with Web 1 and Web 2, with the websites and socials. Now the same is happening right now with Web 3. few industries will first understand the potential of a technology and they get on board, and the rest will follow suit gradually. So the NFT use cases in digital art and collectibles have already gone mainstream. There are other use cases for NFTs in fashion and wearables, the digital merchandise and digi physical goods. We are starting to see a lot of interest from luxury goods and brands. And metaverse, virtual lands and virtual spaces is another interesting use case. We have domain names, applications of NFTs in events and ticketing, and tokenization of our real world assets, and even DeFi NFTs. For example, using NFTs to get collateralized loans, just as Manuel quote during his answer. And the digital identity, the self-sovereign identity is another big topic. And now brands have started using NFTs for marketing and advertising. We are seeing brands like McDonald's jumping into the bandwagon. And for celebrities, artists, and brands, they can use NFTs for loyalty and fan engagement. So the general incentivization part. But the one that's most pertinent and the one that's I'm really excited about is gaming. So probably it's the leading NFT use case. The global gaming market right now is valued at over $175 billion, and it's expected to be double that in the next 5 years. So right now, blockchain gaming accounts only for a fraction of that market, but this will change dramatically with the rise of NFTs, and we are starting to see that push happening already. So for years, players are spending hundreds, in some cases thousands of dollars for in-game assets, which they have to give up once they stop playing the game or once they complete it. But now with NFTs, they can actually own their in-game assets. So everything from skins, places, pets, items, everything they buy in a traditional game. So now they will own this asset as an NFT, which can be bought and resold in a secondary market. And this drastically changes the perspective of all stakeholders involved, from players to game studios. And we have billions of people who are buying digital goods inside of games. And research shows that people spend 5 times more in a blockchain game than in a conventional game. So, just as Seva said, we couldn't predict anything, but I really believe in the next 5 years, every game will be forced to adopt NFTs. And I'm really excited to witness it firsthand.
Yeah, I think that is something that is happening, but also adding something from your list, I think that for any blockchain project, also you need to have like a good advisor. I think that is also a key element.
Yeah, exactly.
Blockchain project. So George, what is your vision about this? So
regarding blockchain games as well?
No, blockchain games or interesting projects that they should pay attention. Yeah. You have
I think right now the flavor in NFTs is all about staking. Right now, everyone is pushing a staking proposition, which is going to border on the securities. They're very exciting, but I think that also brings regulatory issues with staking. And of course, I agree, gaming is huge. That's why I'm very bullish on the sandbox. I think it creates new jobs, new opportunities. It's one of the things that I have kind of put a bet on very early. And I think with the announcement of SoftBank's investment a few days ago, it kind of shot it through the roof.
Yeah.
We kind of knew about that ahead of time, but of course we're on embargo, but you can see that the confidence is building as larger and larger players are going into the play-to-earn gaming space. So I do think that that's going to be a huge mover in the NFT space in the coming months and years, to be honest. Yeah, that's it for me. Thanks.
I agree for you, George. Thank you. So we are coming back to Luxembourg. Let's speak with Aurelien. You are one of the most prominent lawyers in the field of digital assets. And despite NFT being a hot topic, the space is relatively new. So how would you judge the current legal landscape for NFT?
Yeah, it's a good question, because obviously NFT is a very trendy topic. Although we know that we are dealing with digital assets and tokens since a couple of years already, especially in Luxembourg. And what is quite interesting is to say that there is no specific legal regulatory regime applicable to NFTs. Okay. And from a legal point of view, what's quite important is to look at the positioning of NFT versus the other tokens we have today. So if you look at the token taxonomy, you have basically payment tokens, you have security tokens, you have utility tokens. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the NFTs, you clearly know that it's not a payment token, so that's not going to be in that category. It's a non-fungible token by its name, so it's likely not to be a security token either. It's not about an exchange of good or service against an issuer. so it should not be as well a utility token. So it's likely to be, from a legal point of view, a fourth category of tokens with its own legal regime. And the point is, actually, as it's not going to fall under investment token, then it will not fall under financial regulations, which is usually an issue for all tokenization projects, because that's the heaviest regulation. So you have to look at what is behind your NFT to understand what could be potentially the constraints. If what is behind is not regulated at all, because it's an artwork, for instance, and there is no regulation applicable to the ownership of artwork in the country at stake, for instance, then no legal registration, nothing, then your NFT will be without any restriction. And that would be, let's say, the best case scenario. At the opposite, if you start to deal with NFTs with very specific rights or very specific goods which have some public requirement, then likely your NFT is going to be a bit more challenging, because it will have to integrate all those elements in it. So that's a bit of the legal landscape around NFT.
Yeah, and continue with you. So from the point of view of investors or founders, what they need to understand before to getting involved in the NFT?
Yeah, I think, for investors, first is to really understand what's behind the NFT, because now, as all, trendy topic, there is a bunch of many things behind that concept of NFT, and it's important to understand what's behind it and what is really the rights which will be linked to the token you will be acquiring. And that's really the first thing. And it's not really legal, it's just common sense. But keeping sometimes a bit of common sense, in the tokenization world is just, for me, the first good piece of advice. and then I would say, like all, digital assets, in a broader sense, you have to take care of, the custody of the token. You have to take care of the potential transferability. So it's non-fungible, but doesn't mean it's not transferable. So how do you transfer it? Is there any secondary markets? Is there any place for you to liquidate your token, exchange it? So all that type of things which are linked to all type of tokens, but especially I think for NFTs and for funders, I mean, we are so we have a team dedicated to digital assets. So we are obviously consulted by a number of initiators, founders, and they say, okay, the NFTs is the hot topic, so they all want say, okay, we need an NFT for this project, while the project is not tailored for an NFT. Yeah. What they want is probably a security token, investment token. Could be a utility token, but because it's the buzzword, they want an NFT. So I think for the funders, it's just to be sure that what they look for, what they want to achieve, is an NFT. And for instance, if they look for fragmentation, if they look for mutualization, raising funds, it's potentially not the NFT is probably not the right road to follow. So that would be the first as well advice for funders, really. What are you aiming at, and to be careful that the NFT is the right road for them.
Yeah, I think that we are living the same that happened in 2017 with the ICO, that everyone want to develop any project
exactly.
in ICO. But for you, just to finish also with you, so what kind of risks, like the top 3 risks you can see and you can advise for bankers and asset managers?
Yeah, I think, as I said, the first risk is really when we are talking about NFT, be sure that we are dealing with an NFT. That's the first thing, not a security token, especially if you are a banker, asset manager. You don't want to start investing or relying on something which would fall under financial regulation and that you would not apply it, because the reputational risk would be huge. So first is be sure it's an NFT and be sure it's safe from a regulatory environment. Second is, it's non-fungible. It's still transferable, but be sure where you can transfer it, whether there is a possibility for you to, sell it, to exit from your NFT. So what's the outcome of it? So I think it's important. If it's just, for holding it, then that's fine. But I mean, then the question is, what do you want to do with it? So just be very careful about the liquidity issue. And here again, maybe the lack of regulation, because as said today, there is no regulation applicable to NFT. So it's good. It's very positive, but is as well Wild West. I mean, it might come as well, and when it comes, then maybe you are on the wrong side, and you have to adapt and rethink the model, or maybe your NFT will be worth nothing because there will be new requirement which will not be encompassed in the token itself, in the smart contract. So yeah, be careful, because it's a new market, and as all new markets, you need to be careful.
But it's good for lawyers, because lawyers love a Wild West. So
yeah,
it's a good opportunity for all of you. So
it's true. It's good opportunities, and at the same time, that's what we feel, that we need to find the right way to give pragmatic advice to smaller projects, not to be too much of a burden, and say, because the easy answer for all those projects is be careful, don't do anything. You need a 20-page memo before starting. But that's the answer nobody wants to hear. So we need to be pragmatic and already pre-identify, pre-analyze where we are and where to go, and that's our purpose.
It's always we need to move forward. I mean, this is the key. So thank you, Aurelien, for your knowledge. So let's back to Spain with Manuel. So I would like to know, how does NFT adoption look like for financial institutions in Europe, as you are working with one of the biggest service provider like a Worldline?
Okay, financial institutions, they operate in a highly regulated ecosystem. So they tend to be quite conservative. They cannot do otherwise. So if we look at the different areas within financial institutions, like institutional investors, I think they are progressing. They are understanding what Bitcoin is, and then doing some investments around Bitcoin. They are monitoring DeFi projects and doing some cooperations, token collaborations with DeFi operators. And then now they are starting to understand what the NFTs are and see what they can do in this area. But it's very it's at the frontier of innovation, and since it's a conservative sector, they're just looking at it, not getting very deep into it. And then you have financial institutions, how they integrate those assets into their portfolio. Here they are even more conservative than they do institutional investors, because they have to care for the protection of their customers. So what you see is some testings, like for example, you saw that Visa bought this CryptoPunk NFT, and to me that was not the news. The news is when you start looking at the details. How does Visa do that? Because they don't initially they don't have the capabilities to do it. So they have to look at crypto native operators like Anchorage. I think they use Anchorage, this crypto native bank, because they have to you have to securize. They have to ensure that the transaction and the holding of the new asset is doing in a secure manner, with the required industrial solution that is going to protect that kind of investment. So it's what I'm saying, and I think that financial institutions are going to progressively cooperate with the crypto native operators, so that they will be progressively again enhance crypto-based services into their catalog of services.
Yeah. I believe I can summarize what you say with one Spanish word: despacito. So it's happening, but very slowly.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we understand. So, and what is about you, Seba? How do you see this adoption for NFT in financial institutions?
Yeah, I'm not a big specialist, honestly, in financial institution strategies, but I think sooner or later, NFTs will become a store of value in some way. So according instruments and mechanics will be built around them by financial institutions. They are professionals in that, and the legal framework will be built as well. So especially because in decentralized NFT world, these mechanics are already being developing. So for financial institutions later, they will need only to integrate these already tested technical frameworks inside their solutions. And the good example of the case from the decentralized world that's similar to financial institutions instruments. 2 days ago, I believe, one of the high-cost NFTs was added as a collateral to one of the protocols to lend the owner for more than $1.2 million.
Yeah.
So that's one of the applications already being in the decentralized world. But
Yeah.
like Aurelien said, the legal should be constructed around it, and the financial institutions are not getting deep into it before the regulation will be ready. So yeah, techniques maybe will be ready soon, but
Yeah, but we can take
still.
this as a next question. So, what is the challenge from the technical point of view regards NFT, and how do you see the evolution of the NFT, or how the evolution should go in the technical point of view?
Yeah, from a technical point of view, I just wanted to mention a bit about the legal point of view, of course. So we did our research regarding the new legislation came into the enforce in Germany this summer, which allows special funds to allocate up to 20% of their portfolios in digital assets. And we asked more than 70 funds and saw the main barriers. First barrier was lack of knowledge in digital assets field. The second barrier was lack of infrastructure. The third barrier was lack of service suppliers. And of course, the first barrier was regulatory uncertainty. So, and coming back to the technical issues, I think one of the main challenges is the technological gap between current user experience of current web or of current NFT projects, comparing even to web or gaming projects. So there are a lot of issues need to be overcome in a technical view. For example, key management and Web3 interaction through MetaMask or other Web3 providers.
Interoperability is not between your challenge, interoperability.
Yes, yes. So just expanding these issues. So UI UX of NFT projects is the first issue that need to be solved, but not decreasing the decentralization of projects, because the trust will be sacrificed if all these projects will become custodial. And the second one is high L1 commissions and fees on Ethereum mainnet. That's an issue, the big issue, and I hope soon L2 protocols will help us to overcome this issue. And of course, the cross-chain compatibility between chains and projects. For example, we couldn't right now breach NFTs between Ethereum mainnet and other networks because there is a big lack of NFT bridging solutions, especially the gamified ones, because they have a lot of data inside it, and you need to develop a right approach to bridge these tokens between the chains. So, but sooner or later, this infrastructure will be built. We're now building one of these solutions, NFT cross-chain gamify compatible bridge, and I think we will contribute into the ecosystem.
And I can tell you, I hear already something in development in this aspect, so will be good for the ecosystem. So let's finalize with Manuel. Also, I would like to know your opinion about the challenge that the NFT need to face in order to be massive adopted.
I think if we don't mention the legal and the very technical ones, I would focus on usability and relevancy for the customers. I think we have, especially if we talk about financial institutions, which are addressing like all the populations. I think they have two things to do. One is to adapt this new asset class and way to work to these older populations, and also they have to attract new younger populations, and then adapt the usability to those populations, and also the relevancy of the services that they are providing. So it's much matching out the services so that they are relevant to the different target groups they are working with.
Yeah, Yeah, you're right. And you know, I feel that this discussion has been so good, but the time is like a passing. So we are already almost at the end of the panel, and there is many things that we can discuss and already to challenge regards NFT. So I would like to thank you for all of you, okay, panelists and participants to be here with us. But I think I need to give entrance to my colleague Anthony for the next steps.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank Manuel Machado for having joined the panel. It's been an honor to have you with us. And I want to thank Vsevolod for having been part of the panel as well. Your insights have been valuable. And now we want to go over to the workshop sessions. So I'm going to open up one of the three, all of the workshop sessions. But before, I would like to leave the screen to Younis. Younis, could you please say a few words about your session quickly?
Yeah, so Thomas from List and I will talk about NFTs, the public sector, and digital twins. So just join us if you want to learn about our brainstorming to really trigger the discussion. So I've prepared two very brief slides, decks, and then to have a discussion. It has to be really attractive, and we want to hear what people have to say.
Very good. So I'm good. We have sorry, Younis. We have 3 workshops to choose from. I'm opening up the workshop sessions right here, and I'm going to do a shared screen with a few instructions. All you need to do is to accept your invitation and to pick the workshop that you would like to join. Here we go. I also have my colleagues Daniel Calderay, Armin, Harsh, and Shezad Marco helping you if you can't assign yourself. All you need to do is to put W1, W2, or W3 in the public chat, and my colleagues will help you. Miss Aurelia Viemont, if you would like to start, you're more than welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Anthony. I'll do so. Okay, so hi, everybody. My name is Aurelia Viemont. I'm a senior counsel in the Banking and Financial Services Department at CMS Luxembourg. I specialize in regulatory matters, and now for, I would say, the past 2 years, in particular in digital assets, because we've seen a lot of evolution from a legal and regulatory perspective. So very interesting subject. And so it's great to be able to speak about it here today in relation to NFTs in particular. Just maybe a little bit of housekeeping. This is a workshop, so it can, it's meant to be interactive. I have a slides which are prepared. I will be speaking, but of course, don't hesitate to just raise your questions as they come along. If you have a point to add, or if you have a specific issue or concern you want to be addressed, please don't hesitate to just speak aloud rather than the chat, because I won't necessarily be monitoring the chat as I am speaking. So just feel free to interrupt. I really won't be offended, and on the contrary, I think it's always great if we can interact. So that was just for a little bit of housekeeping. Thank you very much for joining this workshop and for actually being interested in the legal aspects of NFTs and the challenges to overcome. Of course, as a lawyer, I'm very interested in legal aspects, but I will considering, I would say, those aspects which are of importance if you are an investor in NFTs, if you are a trader in NFTs, if you are an issuer of NFTs, and really, I would say, pinpoint those aspects which you need to take into consideration and pay attention to, as Aurelien was already starting to explore during the panel discussion. So turning to our agenda and what we will cover in the workshop today. As a preliminary remark, I want to start with the fact that, as Aurelien has mentioned it, there is no specific legal regulatory framework which pertains in particular to NFTs. NFTs are the result of creativity, of an evolution in the technology, which is, for the time being, ahead of the legislator, ahead of the various regulators. But apart from, I would say, that, my impression and from what I've read on the subject is that for the time being, there's also not the will from the legislator, from the regulators to actually legislate or regulate NFTs in particular. So, and we're going to understand why during this workshop, but I think that's already a remark which needs to be made at this stage. So when we look at then the more common general legal framework in relation to NFTs, how do these NFTs fit within this framework? And in order to answer this specific question, we are going to first look at the definition of what is a virtual asset under Luxembourg law, but it's also relevant on a more European and international level. So that's going to be our starting point. The second aspect we're going to look at are the characteristics of the NFTs, how they fit within, let's say, the current legal framework, and explore use cases of what we have seen as practitioners of law, but also as persons who are accompanying various projects who are really, I would say, involved in the setting up and implementation of these projects, and how NFTs can be of relevance, or as Aurelien was also mentioning, may not be the best tool for your specific project. So we're going to look a little bit to that, and then speak about the challenges to overcome. What are the challenges? What can be a constraint, a concern if we are dealing with NFTs, before concluding. So first of all, what is a virtual asset? How is it defined? And does the NFT fit within this definition? So here I'm looking more from the legal perspective, from the Luxembourg legal perspective. And we've provided you in this slide with the definition which is currently set out by our law of 12 November 2004 on the fight against money laundering and terrorist financing as amended. So this law, as some of you may or may not know, sets out, I would say, the professional obligations in terms of fighting money laundering and terrorist financing for certain categories of professionals. And this law now also provides a framework for virtual assets, and more specifically, service providers which are dealing with virtual assets. So if we're looking for a definition of a virtual asset under Luxembourg law, you would need to turn to what we name here our AML law. So looking a little bit more into the definition, and I'm doing this exercise in order, again, to understand what would be applicable to our NFTs from a legal perspective. So looking at this definition, breaking it down, if we read, digital representation of value, so, it's a rather broad term. It could encompass many things, including a virtual currency. So a virtual asset is wider than your virtual currency. So for example, Bitcoin, your virtual asset is going to be a wider category than your virtual currency. It needs to have, of course, this element of, digital, meaning that it's represented digitally, it is digitally traded or transferred. So those, of course, are important elements in understanding what is a virtual asset, and which can be used for payment or investment purposes. And these two components are very important and will help us to categorize NFTs at a later stage. If we look at payment purpose, well, your virtual currency is going to have that element of serving your payment purpose. If you look at investment purpose, on the other hand, well, there we're more focusing on typically your security tokens will enable you to derive certain rights which are, I would say, related to investments. One important aspect also to understand in relation to our definition of virtual asset is that it excludes electronic money. So, and it also excludes, financial instruments. So those two categories, if you have e-money or if you have a financial instrument, automatically you will not, if your asset, will not qualify as a virtual asset. And you can have security tokens, which will qualify as financial instruments, in which case they will not fall within the definition of a virtual asset, but that of a financial instrument, which will have consequences in terms of what will be the applicable legal framework relating to that asset. Perhaps an element which I didn't mention yet at this stage is that this definition is set out under Luxembourg law, but it is derived from a definition which is set out by the Financial Action Task Force, which has recently, a couple of days ago, updated its guidance on a risk-based approach in relation to virtual assets. So very useful. If you're interested, go and have a look, because there is a lot of information in this guidance. And in this guidance, there is also a point on NFTs, and so this is very interesting. Going to, again, the definition, just two other points which we quickly wanted to mention is the fact that, so definition of virtual asset does not encompass the technology itself. So the objective is not to regulate the technology. Technology is in constant evolution, very difficult to be following. And plus, it is not the objective of the legislator to regulate the technology, but rather to regulate those who are providing services in relation to virtual assets. And therefore, you need to focus on the characteristics of the asset in itself. And a second aspect, it is not, a virtual asset is not a mere digital representation of a fiat currency or security. So if, for example, you have a digital ledger, in order to reflect your securities, it will not qualify as a virtual asset. You need to have this element of transferability electronically and the use for payment or investment purposes. Now, the taxonomy, which Aurelien already mentioned in the panel discussion, and I will just briefly go again or turn again to this taxonomy. Traditionally, tokens are classified into three main categories. You have your payment tokens, your utility tokens, and your security tokens. Those are the three main categories recognized by scholars and regulators at an international level. If we look at our payment tokens, they qualify as an alternative mean of payment. They enable you to purchase and sell goods or services, and they may be regulated. I think, you know, we all have an example. Your virtual currency would be an example of such payment token, but you could also have, you know, a token which is created on specifically by an issuer and which will be used or which serves payment purposes. If we look at our utility tokens, they give you, they have the same characteristics, I would say, as loyalty cards, as vouchers. They grant access to a product or service, and most of the time they fall outside the scope of regulation. And they are only, I would say, they can only be used in relation to the issuer itself. So those are important components. And finally, our security tokens, which I would say is a category for which we see a lot of interest as practitioners currently. They represent an investment, and they will grant you rights and obligations similar to securities or investments in shares, debt instruments, and they may be regulated either as a virtual asset or as potentially a financial instrument. So now that we've set, I would say, the general framework and what we have in terms of categories of tokens, the question is, well, do NFTs qualify as payment, utility, or security tokens, or should we consider them as a new category of tokens? And I think that you already understood where we're leaning at here, but our view is that effectively the NFTs should be considered as a new category of tokens and would not, but again, depending on the characteristics, fall within the category of payment, utility, or security token. However, and I want to make a disclaimer because I'm a lawyer, so it's my job to do so, but it will be subject to a case-by-case analysis. Just need to be careful, and it really needs to be assessed depending on the specific characteristics of the NFT and the specific context of the NFTs in themselves. But looking at those characteristics here, as you know, the term, the name indicates in itself, the main characteristic of our NFT is it's the fact that it's a non-fungible token. It is used to represent the ownership of a unique item, for example, a work of art, music, and we're going to go a little bit more into the examples. They derive their value from their uniqueness. So they have the quality of, they can have the quality of a collectible. They are non-exchangeable as you could have, for example, with currency, where the element of fungibility is one of the main characteristics. Here, the main characteristic of the NFT, is the fact that it is non-fungible. You buy a specific, unique item. You do not buy an item which has been fragmented or which is inter-exchangeable. And you know, it may not be split or exchanged as such for another type of asset. It does not, per se, I would say, you know, the primary objective of your NFT is not to serve as a payment or investment purpose. It is to acquire a specific good. So this, I would say, those are the main characteristics of the NFTs. If you look a little bit to the examples, you can have several uses or uses of NFTs. For example, you know, certified documents where you upload the certification details on the blockchain, and the NFT will enable you to verify this information in relation to what has been uploaded. You could have loyalty points, which are distributed via NFTs. You could have also music. You know, some artists have actually either released albums as NFTs or created, I would say, derived work. For example, a special album package or the ability to have access to.
Aurelia?
Yeah.
We have a question by Seva. Seva, can you please unmute yourself?
Yes, I just wanted to ask a little question. In our experience, we have faced NFTs that were dividable by techniques. So regarding your previous slide, are these NFTs are considering in legal measuring not NFTs, or we are just trying to categorize these tokens with all the categories you described on the previous slide? So
yes, the objective was really to categorize in relation to the tokens I was referring to in my previous slide. I would say from a technology perspective, there is no exactly. So there's no limits to what you could create. You know, what could be the use case of NFTs. The limit is just going to be around the law. So what are your legal constraints? So if you can divide your NFTs from a technological perspective, fine, will that actually will that challenge the fungibility, the non-fungibility aspect of your NFT? Probably not. It will depend what the fractioning of the NFT, what was the purpose of the fractioning of the NFT. And maybe, actually, I have an example in the next slide of a type of use case. And perhaps we can discuss this together if that corresponds to your experience of fractioning. But I don't know, when you refer to this fractioning, is it, what's the purpose behind?
Yes, so the purpose behind is about dividing the high-cost NFT between owners, because some owners can't afford to buy a big NFT by themselves. And in a smart contract, on our technical perspective and in our experience, there are already established an approach to divide the NFT by the parts and sell each part to each owner. Maybe one owner could have 2 parts or 3 parts or n parts of such NFT, and afterwards they're able to do with these parts something. And this something is another question I have for you. So
yeah.
So
yes, because the thing is, if you start to create rights in relation to an NFT, which is essentially non-fungible, and then it will depend, of course, on what are exactly the rights which are granted by this NFT, but you are essentially dividing the ownership of the NFT. How do you materialize this ownership or this divided part? By way of another NFT or by way of a specific token? How would that be carried out?
yes, so if this was my project, we will do we will do it like another NFT that grants you a part of previous NFT. So yes, there is a big room for imagination here for prediction, because the field is emerging as well as technique is emerging, and that's awesome. And I just wanted to ask you another question, if you don't mind. Regarding the classification of tokens, digital assets. You said that a digital asset, something is qualified as digital asset if this something is could be used as an instrument to get yields from, right?
Yes.
And if the yields from NFT is getting in utility tokens. So for now, all of the projects are having all of their tokens that are on the market right now are DAO tokens, because they are utility, and all the regulators and legislators qualified the DAO tokens as a utility tokens, not the security ones. And if you have your NFT to be staked to some protocol and you getting rewards in DAO tokens, will this scheme be considered as a will this asset be considered as a digital asset or not? Sorry for maybe a bit weird.
No, that's an interesting question, and that actually, it demonstrates all the complexity of this ever evolving technology and what you can do with it, because it really raises new legal questions for which, as I was saying before, there is no specific legislation pertaining specifically to the NFT. So it's just breaking down, I would say, the characteristics, looking at each component, and on that basis, reaching a conclusion as to what would be the qualification of this specific component. So if, going back to your example, I mean, it will depend on, again, your elements. And here I'm going back again to this element of non-fungible. What's the purpose? What's the objective? Can you actually exchange this NFT or exchange this token with another one? And potentially, as I was saying, potentially we could qualify this as a virtual asset, because then you are bringing this if it's the objective is to have a yield, you're bringing this investment purpose, which is one of the purposes which are set out under our definition of virtual asset. So indeed, potentially, you could fall within the definition of a virtual asset. And the guidance
but yield comes in DAO token. So DAO token is a utility token. And here we've got stuck.
The yield comes in a utility token, okay. But then, then you have your qualification rather of a utility token. But then can you only redeem it, or can you only use it in relation to the issuer itself? Or, could you? Oh,
yes. So a lot of questions here.
No, it's interesting. Those are interesting debates, and it's a case-by-case assessment which needs to be made. And I see that time is running, so it enables me to go to this I would say important element of this workshop, is to say, well, if you are an issuer of an NFT, if you are an investor in an NFT, the prudent approach is really to make sure of the legal qualification of this token. Are we really talking about an NFT? Are we talking about a utility token? Are we talking about a security token? Because from that qualification, there will be consequences from a legal perspective and regulatory requirements. If, for example, you are involved in the trading of an NFT, and your NFT is a digital piece of art, or represents a digital piece of art. Well, you're going to say, okay, NFT, from what I've heard, normally not a virtual asset, so no AML obligations. But under the AML law, traders of work of art above 10,000 euros are subject to AML obligations. So if you are a trader of an NFT, which is an artwork, then you fall within the scope of AML regulations. So you just need to be really careful and really look at the characteristics. I see securitization of NFTs, and if we look, for example, we set out in one of our slides, we actually had, sorry, I'm going to go to this slide. We had an example where, for example, you could have a work of art, which is under physical form, and you create a digital representation of this work of art, but you are going to fragment it and create an NFT representing a small portion of the work of art. So, for example, the very left-hand corner of the work of art. There you could say, okay, it's an NFT. But how about if you are just fragmenting the ownership of the piece of art, or the digital representation of the piece of art, where it's not related to a specific part of this piece of art, but is interchangeable, then in my view, you lose the characteristics of an NFT, and you're no longer speaking about an NFT, potentially. And you could have also the example, and we see that in practice, where you could have a securitization vehicle which buys the piece of art and then issues tokens. It can be, security tokens, it could be other type of tokens, and then you're no longer in an NFT model or NFT type. You have a security token, or you have anything else, but you lose, I would say, this element of this characteristic of the NFT in itself. I don't know, Anthony, if we still have a little bit of time left, or if...
Yes, we have 30 minutes. 30 seconds left.
Okay.
May I ask you another question? The last one.
Siva, let's. I think we don't have time to take any more last questions. Maybe Agnes, did you wanted to say something? You wanted to comment something, if I'm not mistaken, right? In that case, Aurelia, where can our audience find you the best? Do you have any other questions?
Best is either LinkedIn or on the CMS website. So my contact details are indicated on the website.
Very good. So I'm going to bring you back to the main hall in about 10 seconds for final words. So I'm thanking you for your patience, and I hope that you have enjoyed the session. So
thank you.
You have Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite. So we discussed before the panelists discussed about that, where you can have a piece of that, not just play, but you can actually monetize, be more than just a gamer, but make profits. If you combine now with the convergence of exponential technologies, so NFT, blockchain NFT, with digital twin and with immersive tech like virtual reality, you can imagine all the things that we could do. And on the government side, there are also things happening now with, we're talking about 2.5 billion sales volume in the first half, but this is actually not outdated, I think. It's much more. And so governments are starting to think, how can they tap into not only Bitcoin, but also NFTs? And yeah, this will be the final stage of adoption that you saw in the curve. But I believe we can maybe make it happen before. And just, yeah, blockchain cannot be stopped, so it's happening. And let's tap into these opportunities. And just one last thing, I bought the 2 first NFTs. I have a few more now. I bought for my kids. So this is actually the first one. I don't know why it's not showing here. Yeah. So Mule's Ear, it's Z-Run. You can actually race your digital horse and in digital racings, and you can make money with that and win like you would do in real life. So I have this horse that I can start racing with, and the other one is a video of Messi, a small video that is for my son. So for my daughter and for my son. So yeah, do you think NFTs are for the public sector a good idea? Let's discuss now with the short intro of Thomas, and you can scan the QR code if you want the presentation, or just ping me and I will send you the bit.ly link. So thanks, and I will stop sharing, just leaving a few seconds so you can scan it, you can flash it with your phone, and I will stop sharing to let Thomas present.
So if everyone has scanned the QR code, maybe I can take over from here. Let's see if I can show my presentation here. Does that look right from your perspective?
Okay. You can see it full screen.
Okay, excellent. So great. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about digital twins and NFTs. I would like first maybe to introduce the topic of digital twins, digital twin on a nationwide scale, because that's what we do in Luxembourg, and then make the link to how we can potentially see NFTs as an opportunity for discussion in this forum, in this perspective and in this context. So, but just to introduce the topic a bit. So Luxembourg is a rather small country, as you know. Luxembourg is about 600,000 people during the night and 800,000 people during the day. So every day, 200,000 people travel into our little country and 200,000 people travel out every night. So that means that we have a lot of traffic jams in Luxembourg, which I think sure you have experienced if you've been here. But the benefit of being a small country is that we can actually build a digital replication of the country, and that's what we call the digital twin of Luxembourg. So that's the digital version of our country. And what is a digital twin? Well, a digital twin is something that you try to make a full-fledged digital replication of something, which can be a lot of different things, of course. It can be a car, it can be an engine, or it can be traffic, or whatever you like. And the purpose of making this, let's say, digital, full-fledged digital replication of something is, of course, to understand the thing very much in detail, but also how it operates here and now, but also project it into the future. And having such, let's say, predictability on a system can be very beneficial from how the system will evolve. Actually, the digital twin is a system of systems. So it's actually a number of smaller digital twins which aggregates up to a bigger digital twin. So you can see it as a system of systems, and we build it up to the country level. But bear with me, I'll make it more concrete very soon. So that's the, let's say, the ambitious project we have in Luxembourg to build this, let's say, nationwide digital twin, which is this system of systems. So why would we do that? Well, I mean, we have 4 different stakeholders for this. One of them is our researchers like ourselves, to have an open innovation platform where we can do experimentation on this full-fledged digital scale and systems, which is very convenient for us. It's also for companies to have, let's say, a technical test bed and also living lab where you can try out, digital services products to understand the technical features of it and technical viability of it, but also the user acceptance of it. It's also very important for public authorities to have a decision-making tool, and that's also maybe the use case which has come most into the light for public authorities to understand how, in this case, Luxembourg actually works, and how we can predict Luxembourg working into the future. And this has been extremely useful during, for example, the pandemic, where our digital twin technology has been used in order to understand: shall we open the borders? Shall we close the borders? Shall we keep the schools open? Shall we not keep the restaurants open, and so on, and see what would be the effect of certain policy actions using a digital system. So that's also one of the reasons why this digital twin on the nationwide scale has started taking off a lot. But of course, it's also for the citizen by the end of the day to provide a better quality of life. I talked about all the traffic jams we have here. Can we find a better way for traffic and mobility in Luxembourg, also energy utilization and a number of use cases. So that's the idea. Now, of course, one additional element, and we also in the COP26, let's say, spirit is also to use it in a sustainable way. And this is why we within this, one of our key values is sustainability by design. And this is one of the measures we use in order to introduce sustainability into the, let's say, the design phase, or the design phase of any products or services we develop, which also helps us through, let's say, the production, the use, and the end of life. So the digital twin is a kind of vehicle for sustainability by design, which is one of the key objectives for LIST, my organization, but also for Luxembourg, more broadly speaking. All right, so what does digital twin actually look like? Now you're curious. So this is the digital twin of Luxembourg, and specifically here in Belval. So what you see here is let's say the graphical overlay of it. So this here LIST has, together with Nomoko, which is one of our partners, done a drone flight over the Belval area where I'm sitting here now, and we have done it with such a precision that we have about 2 centimeter resolution of the full-fledged area here. So this is a fantastic model which we can use for a number of different purposes. So one thing is, as I said, we can create a system and an understanding of this particular area, and we're now expanding it beyond the Belval area to optimize and install applications, as I said, to understand the usability of them. One of them is 5G propagation, so see where the antennas are. Another one is noise simulation, to understand how our highways and the noise in the buildings and the surroundings. Another very important area is solar panel allocation, to understand where does the sun come from, and also looking at the shadows, how they propagate throughout the day, which is very important. Another one is real estate and what we call public sector and urban planning. So how should we expand? Luxembourg is building a lot, and the question is, what is the best way to build and continue to develop this country using a model which can fully fledged simulate this. So this is why we have developed this model, and we continue to develop this model using this technology, which, for example, where we use this drone technology and this extremely high resolution with the 2 centimeter resolution, which is at least 10 times better than you get with any other comparing technology. And here you can play around a bit with the model in itself. So, of course, this is the, let's say, the overlay to the digital twin. Now what do we do with it? So I'm going to show you another video here, is the so-called visualization wall we have, at least, where we actually do the data analytics. So this is the engine. What we first saw was more like the overlay of it, but here is really the digital twin itself. So what you see here is, during the COVID situation, we looked at a number of different factors. For example, how many companies in Luxembourg were at distress. We looked at also, for example, the occupancy occupancy of the hospitals. So that's what you see, how many beds we have available in the different hospitals in the country. And here you see the economic modeling on the different sectors we have in Luxembourg to see how they would eventually fare better or worse depending on the situation and how the next wave of COVID would appear. So these were all modeled into one integrated model where we could help our decision makers to take decisions like, shall we close the borders? Shall we keep them open? Shall we keep the schools open, or shall we take other measures in order to do that? And I think it's fair to say that the Luxembourgish handling of the COVID-19 situation has been quite successful. If you now look back from an economical point of view, this country has dealt quite well with it, and I cannot say that it's just because of us, but of course it has helped that we have had these models and had this integrated data in order to take better decisions. All right, so that's a bit why it's cool to have a digital twin. So which are the use cases for digital twin? Because that's where I want to go now, and I also want to brainstorm with you, how can we use NFTs? So the use cases we see primarily for our digital twin is on urban planning, it's on resource management, energy systems, mobility and logistics.
Maybe Thomas, maybe you can ask just while you're listing, maybe if you have some ideas from the, I think we're 19 people, you can in the chat, you can just put some keywords, what you think is a good idea while Thomas is presenting.
Yeah, just throw out any idea you have, we can discuss. Yeah. Thank you, Younis. That's a good idea. So we look at a number of different use cases, and then I want to summarize my presentation by throwing out some ideas where I think NFTs may or may not be useful for this. But maybe the first thing is to say that, so now we're going from this NFTs as, let's say, traditionally been used mainly, I would say, for digital assets. It's been used for, art and other digital assets where we want to have this, let's say, hardcore binding to the digital asset and being able to trade it using NFTs. But what we see now, and that's of course where I want to go, is that we now go from this, let's say, metaverse digital world to the real world and seeing how can we use NFTs for real physical property rather than digital property. And that's my last slide, and these are just some ideas, and here this is really brainstorming mode, but just some ideas on where NFTs may or may not play a role for some of these use cases. So on mobility and logistics, we could imagine NFTs being used for parking and parking management. It's clearly a problem here in Luxembourg and many cities. Another point is congestional charges. That's something we see a lot in different countries and different cities around Europe, where we can have charging depending on the day, where we can think around how we can optimize the mobility. My own home country and my hometown Stockholm has successfully introduced this to minimize the traffic in that city. We can also think about decentralized local charging stations. If we think about a more distributed charging for electric vehicles, which could also be a cool idea, where someone can borrow my charging station for a while to charge his or her electric vehicle. And another, I think, very clear, interesting use case for NFTs is logistics traceability and tracking, where I think there has already been some kind of blockchain, a lot of blockchain products already on that, but maybe NFTs can play an even more advanced role on logistics, which is also a very important sector in Luxembourg. On resource management, maybe we should think around what is emission and emission rights, and emission right for example, supply chains. It could be an interesting area for NFTs, I believe. On energy systems, what we see there is, of course, a lot of smart contracts, and that's a classical, let's say, blockchain related technology. But specifically, we see the development of local energy communities. That means that I produce energy locally and I can sell it to my neighbor in a distributed fashion. So we don't need to go through the centralized, but we can also produce and consume and create these local energy communities, but they need to be managed in some way, and maybe NFTs can play a role in that. And on urban planning, I think we have land and property ownership, which we already have in the digital world. So here, I think it's quite clear that NFTs can play a role. And maybe there's also something about the ownership of lighting systems, which could be an interesting topic for NFTs. So some ideas, and Younis,
I think Paul, we have already a question from Paul. 3 questions.
Okay, Paul.
I think.
So let's see if I capture your question, Paul.
Maybe you can stop sharing the screen and we can just go to the Q&A because it's recorded anyway. So it's good.
I'll stop.
So Paul, the floor is yours. You can unmute yourself, put the video, and challenge us and the other people in the room.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. So the NFTs is of course a new development, and a lot of questions are coming to my mind while you were presenting about the digital twin. So how does that make life better to have a digital twin as an NFT, so that I can now own a part of that traffic jam, or can I own a part of a street, or what does that do to me?
I don't want to own a part of a traffic jam.
Exactly, but it is art, you know. The biggest traffic jam in Luxembourg. Okay, here, pay for it.
Yeah, this is brainstorming, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious, Thomas, to figure out what does that mean for governments, and how can governance benefit from that, and because of that, how can citizens benefit from that?
So one idea I had, and I looked into, so I did some research, but it was not like super deep research. It was really looking at what was happening, what were people looking for, top keywords, and I found this very interesting, that the people are looking for finding ways to monetize the digital world for public sector organizations. So it could be the city, it could be the regional entity. And I hear so many times when I go to meet with people from the public sector, we don't have money. So what if you could actually solve this and remain the owner of the physical asset and monetize the digital asset? And so you empower people, and they can actually make suggestions. Look, I own a piece of the park, or not a traffic jam, not a good example, but a park or whatever. And you want to make something like you have a voice, with some with some tokens, with some cryptos, you can actually have voting rights embedded in it. So we could imagine this kind of model where you use NFTs, and the public sector can make money with a license plate, with all these things, while keeping the ownership in the real world. So that means that you can actually, with this money, because it's not for profit, it's there to redistribute for the benefit of the citizens, and you can improve the quality of life. That's one thought. And of course, I don't know the legal base for that. And we have the other workshop to discuss the session 2, where they discuss the legal aspects. But that's just my view. We are here to exchange. I don't know who else wants to. Thomas, do you want to answer to the?
Well, I mean, I don't think. I mean, Paul, I think your guess is as good as mine, but it's about creating economic incentives to make the resource allocation more efficient. And we know that many things are not super efficient as of today. And for example, parking in Luxembourg can be terrible, and property is, frankly speaking, also quite empty in Luxembourg. So there are many inefficiencies, and the question is, can we create some economic incentives, and also on emissions, right, to make a better society? But of course, we're sitting here thinking about NFTs, and sometimes NFT is a good answer, sometimes not. But it's a new, well, relatively new opportunity, and new vehicle which we can use in some cases. But I think we need to really brainstorm, because frankly, this is new to us as well, to think around NFTs in this context. So that's why it's so cool.
And maybe with all the gaming wave, there is something to do with gamification. So using in the public sector, using some gamified environment for the public sector, where citizens can actually create. You have your digital twin with all the infrastructure, and you add the citizens in this model, and then you can do some interesting things with adding this layer of gamification.
Yeah, I see some examples in loneliness, which is a huge problem, especially in if people are aging. So if we could bring it, it's still a little bit complicated for people to use it and to get access to that. But you could do a kind of an education session so that those people now are a little bit more active and making also money on it, while they are more in a social contact with other people. But I would like to hear also what other people think. I don't want to ask too many questions.
So I saw some chats, private or to everyone, but if you have something like some thoughts, just go ahead and put your video on and mute yourself and just go. Don't be shy. So Gloria, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. I'm so excited about all this development and what our world will be. And the main question is coming to me is that all these things are based in a blockchain that at the moment are really energy consuming. I mean, we are in a war, we're in a burst of destruction of the world, and we are using a technology that at the moment is on the line to increase.
So this is not completely true, because if you actually look at Bitcoin, which is the biggest, which is known as the biggest like consumer of electricity, it's actually boosting green energy.
Yeah, but my question, we can discuss about what is the green energy about this. My question is going to another way.
Okay.
My question is, in any case, is so energy board business in a way, and it's a big energy board platform or how say tool or whatever. My question is, what will do the government about or what could be the policies of the government, or what will be the action that a government or the public can do about that?
So just to be clear, can you restate the full question like very clearly, because I'm not sure I understood.
What I'm trying to say is that what is the voice of the public sector in the fact that if we don't get a better tool, I mean a better blockchain, this could lead to big environmental issues.
Okay, so you're concerned really about the footprint, the CO2 footprint, the energy consumption of the
blockchain. What is the public sector is on it?
A public sector where? In which part of the world?
We are talking about Luxembourg, for example.
Well, we are not talking just about Luxembourg. We could be talking about the EU. I'm in contact with MEP Eva Kaidi, and she's Miss Blockchain for Europe, and we can trigger the discussion at the EU level, at the member state level. It depends. That's why I'm asking, like, if you're asking this in a broad way, because we can look at different parts of the world, it's going to be a different answer, I guess. So that's why I'm asking you.
Luxembourg.
Okay, so for Luxembourg, then, Thomas, you have the contacts at the moment with the people from the national government.
I mean, Gloria, are you from Luxembourg?
That's 3 minutes before.
Yes, I am.
Okay, right. No, I mean, I cannot speak on behalf of the government, of course, but blockchain as today is based on a proof of work principle, which is not very energy efficient, we have to say. There are other means to do blockchain technology. You don't need proof of work. There are other ways to do it. So I think it's not necessarily so that it has to be such an energy consuming technology, but personally I believe in emissions. I mean, we should put a cost on that. It's better to create an economic incentive to reduce the energy consumption, because it's highly inefficient, and I agree that this is a problem, and we from Luxembourg perspective, I think we could pave the way for that.
What is your take on that, Gloria, because maybe you have some thoughts?
My thought is that we are talking about the twins, and my problem is that we are using a system that will replicate it, and the already material world is not able to cope with itself. We are replicating this virtually. So if we are using the same method, if we are using something, we are just duplicating the problem. And I know that the blockchain is the future and is the solution, But I wonder if the platform we have at the moment are the real one. There are a lot of people wants money, and this is scare me so much. And especially
so you're saying that we should not just look at the benefits, just financial benefits, but overall different dimensions. So yeah, together, like maybe less money as benefit, but with certain like
more value,
guarantees
less money,
on the environment,
more value, and what the public sector has a
okay, it's a very good point. So that's maybe something I tagged also in LinkedIn. I tagged several government entities, but yeah, I don't know if they will be interested in this discussion. We'll see. Armin, you want to say something?
Yeah, I might have some answers for you. So just short my background. I'm working for venture capital that seeks to invest into blockchain. So I have some insights how this works. Speaking of energy consumption in the Web3, speaking of blockchain, it's quite high. You're right. But if we compare Web3, we also need to speak about Web2, meaning Spotify, Netflix, everything else. And the main problem we have now with internet consumption is that streaming all the time. You have, let's just speak about Netflix and Spotify. Each time you stream content, it takes usage out, and each time you need some more energy. So actually 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you needed a lot less internet and a lot less energy, because you just had your DVDs or you just had your CDs. So that's.
So are you saying we should all stop watching Netflix?
Yeah. So the point is, if you want to stop blockchain because of the energy reason, you need to stop use Netflix as well and Spotify as well, because it's the same argument. It uses the internet. That's one point. The second point is, I think blockchain actually can can be used to combat any climate. How would I phrase this? You can use blockchain technology to tokenize CO2 carbon tons. The main problem we have now is with the CO2. I can only say it in French. It's this. It's the pollueur payeur.
Footprint?
Yeah, you know, it's a footprint. So the model by the European Union that's not working is you have 1 ton of CO2 that it's trade for not even 30 euros, and only companies are doing it. And actually, if you do it on the blockchain,
we're going to close in a few seconds, Armin.